Welcome, everybody, to the You Are Worthy Network, and happy Friday to you. I am so excited to bring you another incredible guest. I know confidently that you're going to love her. Before I read her bio, because you know I'm going to do that, I want to praise God with you all for a moment, and specifically why I want to do that today is yesterday something substantial happened. Yesterday we went over 15,000 members. 15,000. I know who did that. Yeah, I had to do some work in there. I get it. But God always does the heavy lifting, right? He always multiplies. And whether you are watching for the first time or whether you watch as many as you can, or whether you're somewhere in the middle, I want to thank you for being here. I want to tell you I'm grateful that something in that term "you are worthy" resonated with you enough to join and enough to be involved at whatever level of involvement you're in. So thank you. Praise God for our community. I can assure you that there's more exciting things coming down the pike very, very soon, but I'm just super grateful and I wanted to articulate that since it just happened less than 24 hours ago, too. So, what is the You Are Worthy Network exactly? Well, in layman's terms, it's a rebuttal to my own stinking mindset that was telling me for years that I wasn't worthy. Anybody relate to that? Like that whole limited thinking, lack of self love, lack of self worth, imposter syndrome, that whole family. Like, time to kick it to the curb. I've been drinking that Kool-Aid for way too long. And so as I started to have victories in that, I'm like, you know what? I'm not the only one struggling with this. I'm going to do my best to do my part to bring a little encouragement, a little hope, and help give you a shot of self-worth by creating this network. It's the short answer. I'm a preacher. I got long answers all the time. I'm going to try to constrain myself today so we have more time with our guest. So that's what the You Are Worthy Network is. And I appreciate, like I said, each one of you. So with that said, let me tell you about Laura. Laura Worosher, and I hope I said that right, is a best-selling author, publisher, author coach, and storytelling strategist who believes every person has a story worth sharing. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Cedarville University and began her career as a blog and web content writer before advancing into executive communications leadership. What started as a professional writing career eventually evolved into something much bigger: the founding of Beacon Insights, a platform and community dedicated to spreading hope, inspiration, and meaningful connection through books, seminars, courses, and training materials. Today, Laura wears many hats. She serves as founder and president of Beacon Insights, works as an author coach and writing consultant for publishing houses, publishes books, and has ghostwritten or consulted on dozens of projects spanning leadership, faith, business, and personal transformation. She is also the author of two books: Compete with Deceit and the best-selling Blind to Hope. When she is not helping authors uncover the heart of their message, Laura can usually be found homeschooling her three children or caring for their more than 90 animals at her private petting zoo. Yes, really. From manuscripts to donkeys, keynote ideas to chinchillas, her life is a blend of creativity, chaos, compassion, and calling. At the core of everything Laura does is a simple belief: stories matter because people matter. Her mission is to help individuals find the courage, clarity, and confidence to share the experiences that could inspire, heal, and impact others for generations to come. I love it. Laura, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's an honor to be here.
Oh my goodness. There's so much I could jump into and I could camp on so much of this, but I know we'll get to a lot of it hopefully. Tell our many members that will eventually watch this over the next 30 days. Tell them what part of the world you're coming from today.
I am in Richmond, Virginia, currently sunny and gorgeous.
Yeah, Laura we tried to do this with her outside and technology wasn't cooperating, but it did look like a stunningly beautiful day. And I was telling Laura that I was born in Richmond, Virginia, still have a sister there, so I know exactly what part of the world she's coming from. But Laura, tell us about your family. You're married and have three kids, right?
Yes. Yes, three wonderful kids. I didn't actually know if I wanted to be a mom when I was growing up. I didn't have the maternal instinct. And so it's totally been a God story with, my husband really wanted kids. And so I said, okay, I'll be along for the ride. And now it's homeschooling and all things mom, and I love it. And it's just been amazing to see the transformation from somebody who didn't think they may even want that to somebody who's just all in on it.
Yeah, that sounds like all God to me because you strike me as a natural mother.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So how old are the kiddos?
They're 11, 9, and 7, and they're magical ages because they're old enough to feed themselves and grab a snack and read and do those things, but they're still young enough that like I'm still kind of cool and like we can still be friends, and so it's just they're sweet. We love them so much.
Enjoy that age. That
Mhm.
is so true. Mine are now 19, 17, and 15, and I don't know that cool is the word they would use to describe us now. Maybe on a good day, my 15-year-old still says cool. Maybe if he's getting his way, I'm still cool. But it does evolve. But no, those are great ages for sure. And how many years married to your husband?
14.
Awesome.
I did that
Awesome.
fast. Look at me.
You did. I was impressed. Now would he have said it as fast?
Probably. He's actually way better with those things than I am.
It's like that in our household too. My wife is like, and I can call it right off. That's why two become one, right?
Amen.
So what does the family like to do for fun together?
Oh goodness, we love anything outside. Beaches, mountains. We do snow skiing, water skiing. Obviously, being outside on our little farm is just so fun. Um, yeah, anything outside. Particularly, I'm a beach person, so I don't even give me a tent on a beach. I'm good to go for just ever. So we're getting ready to head to our annual Outer Banks trip, and that's just something we just look forward to all year long.
Then I see you answered my question there in flow. I was like, okay, so knowing the geography a little bit like I do, I'm like, well, you're probably just a tad less than 2 hours away from Virginia Beach, but
Yep.
you guys like Outer Banks better, it sounds like.
Well, that was my parents and grandparents and aunt started going when I was like 9, and lived up in Ohio, and we would all go to the Outer Banks, and we have gone every summer, save I believe one, where we had like a wedding or something random and couldn't go. Every summer since I was 9 to the Outer Banks, and to me, like that's the beach. So I know I've been to so many other beaches, but like Corolla, North Carolina, like that to me, it's my beach and I love it so much.
It's amazing how our tastes change too a little bit when we get older. At least, like I grew up with the Atlantic Ocean. I grew up in Virginia, and then my grandmother lived on the Atlantic side in southern Florida. So I like to body surf. Probably went way no, there's no probably to it. I went way too far out as a 10, 11, 12-year-old boy. By the grace of God, I'm still here. But like I love now the calmer Gulf of Mexico and the white sand of the panhandle of Florida. But I hear so many people like yourself love and I have been to Topsail, North Carolina, which is further down from Outer Banks. And then my sister loves to go to Myrtle Beach a couple times a year. So there is something to be said about those waters of the Atlantic for sure. Um,
Yes.
let, let me take you back in time a little bit. I want to, and those that watch frequently know that I do this, but I want to take you back to your senior year in high school. Tell us what the mindset was, and I'll even set it up for you. You've got a couple weeks left in high school. You've got the cap, you've got the gown, maybe you've got a class ring, you've got the big day circled on the calendar. You're marking down the dates. Um, Maybe you've even been assigned by your classmates to get the beach ball going during the ceremony. I don't know. But what was your thinking? Were you like senioritis to the max? I can't wait to get out of this place. I've got a job already. I'm going to work that this summer. I know what I'm going to do in the fall. I know what I want to do with my life. And there's no right or wrong answer. Were you on the other end of that spectrum? Well, I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss these friends. I guess I better get a job. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the fall, but I guess I need to at least be working. And I'll figure it out as I go. Or were you somewhere in between?
So I was actually homeschooled myself all the way up until I went to college. So senior year for me looked like, oh my goodness, I'm finally going to get out of this bubble that I've been living in and go to this a big, big for me. I mean, Cedarville, I think at the time was less than 5,000 students, but to me that was huge. That was a big deal. And I think life for me had been very prescribed. I was following the rhythm. You graduate high school and then you're going to go to college and you're going to get a degree and you're going to, and following the rules, and everything was just kind of how it went. And I've loved stories and storytelling and books and everything since I was little. And so I wanted to go to school for journalism. And I was just excited. I think I was excited to see how this, little homeschooled girl was going to work in a bigger setting. And I'm more of a stoic. So when I went off to college, I said sayonara, mom and dad, and like didn't call them for months. Like I am in college, but that's where I'm at. So it wasn't super emotional for me. It was more of, here's my plan, here's what I want to do, and I'm excited to get out and do these bigger things. And yeah, I was not nervous. I was just rearing to go.
Yeah, you're ready to get outside and experience the world. So help me geographically. So Cedarville's is that in Virginia?
No, so I grew up in Ohio, the
Okay.
Akron-Canton area of Ohio, and Cedarville's down kind of near the Dayton area-ish, so to speak. It was about 3 hours away, which was great because it was far enough that like the parents couldn't just always come down at the drop of a hat, but it was close enough that like for Christmas break or whatever, I could go home and it wasn't like a big long road trip or anything. So it worked well.
Yeah, that's perfect distance. And I do, yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. I do know that area in general. Um, okay, so you graduate and it sounds like, tell me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you have used your degree exactly the way you intended. Would that be accurate, or has there been no, there's been okay, tell me more.
No, so this is my favorite part because it's such a God story. It's not my story. If I had written it, it would not have ended up anything like this. So when I graduated, I had all of these thoughts. Ooh, I'm going to do this or be that, and I really wanted to be a news anchor. That was like I get to be on TV and cool without having to deal with like the Hollywood aspect. So I was like, Perfect. I was the news anchor at Cedarville while I was there. I wrote for the newspaper. I did all the things, but I also was working my way through school. So I had a job waiting tables. I had a job at a retail store, and when I graduated, I was actually making like almost 70 a year at these other jobs. Which I'm going to age myself, but back early 2000s for a college kid, like that was good money. And then as I was looking for jobs and trying to get things lined up in the journalism field, they were like, "We'd love you, to have you. We'll pay you 20 a year." And I'm like, "Ooh, like it's not going to work for me." And so just financially, I said, I'm just going to have to pause on the journalism, pause on that until I was like, oh, I'll save up, save up some money. And then when I can afford to reinvent the wheel a little bit and go into journalism, I'll do it then. And of course, that I never reached that place because I like the boots and I like the clothes and I like the vacations. And so somehow the money just always went somewhere else. And I just continued to work and met my husband and got married, and the dream kind of died. Honestly, it just kind of died. And I wasn't upset about it. I just figured that chapter had closed and wasn't gonna be part of my life anymore. And then when I got pregnant with my first son, I wanted to stay at home with him. Partially out of, wanting to be around him, also partially because daycare was going to cost just as much as I was making, just about. So I was like, it makes no sense to pay. No, I'm not going to do that. And so I quit my jobs and I stayed home with him, and I did not handle that transition well at all. To go from being like, yes, here's my career trajectory, I'm a part of a team, I get a paycheck, I get to cross things off my to-do list, to now I'm changing diapers and I'm wiping floors and I'm doing dishes and there's nobody to give me that "at a girl" or "here's extra money for working overtime" or anything like that. And I didn't handle it well mentally. So I thought, I've got to find a way to be a part of a team, to fill, I guess, that side of me that really didn't enjoy being empty. And so I found web content writing, and that I could do from home without leaving, but it was still in the writing world. And what was really cool about that was that the writing I had done to this point was more creative. It was feelings, it was feature pieces, it was things like that. And so being in blog and web content writing, I worked for dentist offices and doctors and legal teams and lawyers, and it was much more technical writing, which I hadn't done a ton of to date. And so it really gave me a good chance to bolster that skill set, which currently has come into play in a huge way. And so I could see God just using that in a way, again, that I had never intended. But that was kind of how I got back into the writing game, so to speak. And I did that for a while before my current gig. But there was about a 20 year, 15 year gap between graduating high school and picking back up with what I'm doing, any kind of like official writing, and the lost years, right? And I can still look back though and see how, even though I didn't understand the path, that I was always on the right path. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, that is fascinating, and you can see God's hand in it for sure. And He gave you a chance to start doing what you loved again, because I'm sure that was a huge transition, having your hand in a lot of things and getting the attaboy and the encouragement and the collaborations to okay. And like you said, you didn't regret it. I mean, you were starting your family, but it was hard. And so fast forwarding now, just for clarity, do you own Beacon, or is that an organization it's yours? Awesome. Awesome. So you wear many different hats within Beacon. If you had, I guess in a way you do have this, but let's play a little hypothetical. Say you woke up and this particular day your husband and your kids are on a trip together and you're all alone. What's the ideal day for you in that scenario? Tell us, is it sleeping in? Is it waking up at 5? Is it coffee? Is it breakfast? Is it the gym? Is it a run? Tell us who you're working with that day. You've got 24 hours. Your ideal day, what does it look like?
So Um, I am nocturnal a little bit. If I am in bed, I'm usually in bed by about 2 a.m. If I'm in bed by 1:30, that's an early night. After like 3 or 4, I start to get a little wonky, but I'm usually up till about 2 a.m. and then I sleep in until like 9, 9:30. That's my typical method. If I have to get up at 5 a.m., I am a grouchy bear all day long. So it kind of came out of necessity. It was just the only time I could find to actually work was after the kids went to bed, and so I would work late. And now I'm just in that rhythm, and so I would definitely sleep in 9:30. I would probably roll out of bed, and then I do have we have 97 animals right now, so I would have to take care of the 97 animals. Probably, make sure nothing is in need of crazy attention. Everything has food and water and is in a relative state of cleanliness. And then that kind of takes that load off of my mind so that I can focus on what I need to focus on and sit down. I'm a tea person. I love tea, mint tea, lavender tea, lemongrass tea. So I would make a cup of tea and I would spend some time reading the Bible and praying, because otherwise my focus is just off. So I absolutely I need that. I can tell like the days where I have early morning obligations or meetings and I have to wait till the afternoon to do that. I can absolutely tell my focus and my perspective is wonky. So I would do that straight off the gate. And then I would go through the books that I'm working on with my authors, see if I've gotten any messages from them. I'm in pretty constant communication with the authors that I work on one-on-one because they're all at various stages of their writing journey or their publishing journey. And so I don't like to leave them hanging, so to speak. So I would go through my communications, go through my books with them, see what they're doing, what I can help them with. And then I would probably go to my own writing because I still do a lot for myself as well and get some writing done. And then I have so many friends, Steve, that if I just had time to just hang out with my friends, those moments are treasured because everybody's got busy lives and it's like you have to carve out time for your friends anymore. And so I love it. I would have them all over. We'd watch, I don't know, The Devil Wears Prada, and we would eat charcuterie, and it would be great. And that would be my day.
And they would probably be there late, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's fascinating. Now, in that scenario, I'm thinking of the animals. Would you be able to do all that and I know you're capable of doing the animals by yourself and probably have done them by yourself many times. But can you get all that done and take care of the animals by yourself from a time perspective?
Yeah, I've got this system. I've got a finely tuned system. And so really the thing that it helps the most to have the kids around to help with are the mini donkeys and the dwarf goats because we have 10 dwarf goats and 2 mini donkeys and they like to escape. They like to take any chance they can. As soon as I open the gate, they're like, "Ooh, time to run away." So it really helps to have the kids there, help me get the halters on and walk the donkeys and guard the gates when I'm bringing the water in and out and things like that. That really helps to have more than one physical body. But the rest of them, I mean, are primarily caged animals. In my office currently, I've got 16 animals sitting around me. So I'm sitting next to the hedgehog and the tortoise, and I've got 3 snakes over there, and I've got the chinchilla and the sugar gliders and the bearded dragons and anyway. So they're caged, so it's not as big of a deal if they get a little antsy.
So if not that I'm invited, but if I ever come to your place, we're meeting for tea. And because no, the snakes, I'm not doing the snake thing. I don't care if they're in crates or wherever they're at. I'm not doing it.
Well,
But
they used to be in more of the family area, and enough people said, I'm not a big fan of snakes. I was like, I'll just move them in my office, and that way, if you don't want to deal with them, you don't have
that's
to.
that's hilarious. So I want to get back to the I want to get back to the books in just a second, but I am curious, like how much land are you on?
6 acres,
How much?
about 6 acres.
6 acres, because I'm trying to think of the Richmond area. You must be outside the main county. Henrico, is it?
Yes, yeah, we're in Mechanicsville.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's not far from Ashland, right?
Yeah, no, not bad. About 30
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, where is there still 6 acres available?
Well, I would love like 20 acres and alpacas and pigs and peacocks and all the things, but we'll see.
Oh, don't get me started about alpacas. That you got to have patience and tough skin for that one. But I hear you. I would we had 2.5 acres in Tennessee years ago, and we sold it to go into the ministry. And I would have loved, well, still would like to have five or more at some point, but that's a whole nother conversation. Um, what is it about your clients? How do you enjoy helping them the most with their book projects?
Well, I think there is a certain level of anxiety and fear that comes along with writing a book, putting a book out there, at just every stage. Because when you're writing a book, typically you're putting a lot of yourself into the book. And that can open up sometimes unresolved things that you thought you might be over. And as you're writing about it, you're like, never mind, I'm still working through this thing that happened to me, or this season of my life. And so I've worked with authors that say, I've been writing this book for 5 years and I can't make it through because I can't handle it emotionally. And so there's that aspect of kind of the fear or anxiety. And there's the fear and anxiety of um, I have this book, but how do I get it out to the right audience? How do I help it reach people? And then there's the fear of what if I do and then it doesn't sell and nobody wants to read it? And then I'll feel rejected. I'll feel like I didn't do a good job. And so there's so many places at which these authors can just have this fear, this anxiety. And so what I love to do is just walk alongside with them. I'm like, I can't necessarily take the anxiety away, but I will be here with you. I will be here with you through all of it, and I will do what I can do to make sure that the anxiety is not from anything production related or marketing related or anything like that. That I'm doing what I can to make it a fun process and something that at the end the authors really feel like this is what they were supposed to do. This is not something that, oh, I tried it and it didn't work, but it really was something that they was meant to help people, and that their book has a purpose, and that their story has a purpose, and it was meant to be shared.
It wasn't just another project. They were called to do it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So are you is Beacon provide everything? Like you do the coaching. I know what you were just describing there, as far as moral support is going the extra mile. But do you guys provide the proofreading, the editing, the actual printing, the publishing? Do you do it all?
Yeah, I do. So that's something that's been again a total God thing. It really started back when I with my books, and I wrote my books, and again going through that process as an author, being very personal books. Um I had an okay time with it, but it was difficult for me. And like I said, I'm more stoic when it comes to things like that. And then as I was talking about my books to other people, they were like, "Oh, I'd love to write a book, but," and they always had something like holding them back. But I'm afraid of this, but I'm worried about this. And so the more I heard that, I was like, I can help that. I can coach that. Let me come alongside you and work with you. And so that was the first phase, so to speak, of Beacon, was more of that coaching in the writing process, working through how you bring a story to life. And obviously, my degree and my years spent writing helped me with more of the technical editing and things like that. I already had those skill sets developed. And then it got to the point where people would be like, "Hey, I want to write a book about this, but I'm too busy. So how about if I pay you to do, I pay you to do it?" So then I kind of got into the ghostwriting version of it, which was interesting because at the end of the book, I feel like it was my book, because I had written it, but it wasn't my book, so I had to learn how to navigate trying to bring the author's vision to life and not necessarily hold too tightly how I wanted that book to go, because I was putting so much work into it. It felt like mine. I'm like, no, I don't want you to do that. So I had to learn and grow into what ghostwriting really looked like for me. But then I was coaching and I was ghostwriting and I was editing, but they were like, well, I can't afford 10 grand for a publisher. So now I just have this manuscript and I don't know what to do with it. Most people have issues with self-publishing, for a number. It's not as easy as people think. That bleed and trim size and margins and uploading it to LSI and KDP and ISBN numbers, and like there's this whole thing, that if you don't know what you're doing, it can sometimes come across that like when you're looking at the finished book, it looks self-published, so to speak. And so even if you can navigate the world of how do I figure it all out, then you kind of are left with an end result when you're holding your book, that didn't feel like what you wanted it to feel like. And I had so many authors actually ask me to republish books that they had already self-published because they just didn't feel like it represented well what they were trying to do. And so they're like, well, I don't want to self-publish, but I can't afford the 10 grand. Would you help me with publishing? And so it turns out I work as a contractor, as the director of operations for a couple different publishers. And I was like, well, why not? So again, totally God using my skill sets to help people. And so because I'm more so on the mission of helping to bring the stories and helping to come alongside the authors, I don't charge 10 grand for publishing. So I'm way willing to work with people as far as the pricing goes. And even earlier on, there was a lot of service exchange. Hey, if you can bring me 3 more clients, I'll do it for really, really cheap, because I'm just looking to build and grow my business. However I can, right? I'm gonna be thrifty about it. And so it's been absolutely amazing to see what started as I would like to write a book turn into how can I help so many other people wherever they're at on their journey with bringing their story to life.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I remember when I wrote my first book. It's a whole nother story, but I had an outline for it for years, and a lot of imposter syndrome took place. It would have been helpful to have somebody like you during that time, but I had a coach one day who knew I wanted to write it, knew I had an outline, and at the beginning of a session, he said, "When are you going to write that book?" And I remember telling him, probably a little sharp, I was like, "Well, I'm not paying you to talk about that today." So we're not talking about that today, but we got off the call, and all I can say it was God's timing. I sat down and wrote that book in 3 weeks. Now, what I didn't know was that was the easy part, in my opinion. In my opinion. Now I'm getting introduced on my own research to publishing. Which route am I going to go? I had somebody edit it that did not do a good job, and I had to have it revised 6 months later, or chose to have it revised 6 months later so that it was better. Um, and it can be a nightmare, that process. And you get into conversations with publishers who all have different agendas and they all have different expectations, and it's a crazy world out there. I remember, even though I self-published, when KDP printed my book, the first batch that they printed, it had a slimy green, like the Nickelodeon slime, on the cover. Now my cover was a lot of green and like foresty trees and water, but it was a slimy green, and I'm like, oh, and finding somebody in customer service, good luck, good luck. So for those of you that have that copy out there, like the 8 or 10 copies of that exist, I'm sorry, because I'm not famous and you're not going to get, my signature's not going to add any value to that book. But I'm just saying it's great to have somebody like yourself that is trusted and that can walk through every step, or as much or as little of it as they need. I think that's fabulous. And then the ghostwriting piece, that makes total sense to me. I don't know that I've ever talked to someone that actually has been a ghostwriter, but yeah, I would imagine your heart and your mind both would get attached to the work because you're doing the majority of the work, but it's not yours. So that what a challenge that is. Um, let's transition to your books. Do you happen to have do you have a copy of your books nearby right now?
Do let's see. Well, here, this is Blind to Hope.
Now that's the last one you did, right?
This is my very first one.
It's your first one. Okay, tell us
Yes.
about it.
So I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I went through a transition period. I just gotten married. We moved to Houston, and I had my first son, and I quit my job, all in the span of about, I mean, it was 9 months, like something really compact. And, psychologists say that any one major like life event can like make you crazy. And I had four, boom, 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 boom. And I did that move to Houston. I didn't know a soul. And I am not the type to I'm an introvert. So like introducing myself or going into rooms with strange people, almost gave me a phobia at the time. And so even if I had wanted to though, even if I had been an extrovert, my first son was had colic really bad, was a very high needs baby. And so I was just exhausted and depleted. I didn't have the energy to get dressed, take a shower, go out and hang out with friends. Like even if I had them, I wouldn't have been able to go and do the things, but I didn't have them. And so there I was feeling exhausted and depleted with nobody to talk to, nobody to come over, nobody to kind of bounce things off of locally anyway. And um, I just felt very alone. I felt very isolated. And then the achiever in me started to speak those lies of, hey, you're not a good mom. You can't help your kid. Like,
Mm,
your husband's gone all the time. He must not really care about you very much. Hey, you don't have any friends. Nobody knows what you're going. It was just this mental bombardment of all of these lies, to where I felt very shrunk into a corner and isolated and unseen. And, but again, I felt like people do this all the time, right? Like I'm not the first one to have a colicky baby or to switch my job or to get married. Like people do this and succeed at it constantly. So I didn't feel like I should be waving some kind of flag like, hey, I'm in trouble. I have a kid. Like that's, I don't know. So I just didn't. I didn't reach out. I didn't say anything. I didn't know how to. And I did. I ended up in a very dark, lonely place and not knowing how to get out of it. And I remember I was sitting in my bedroom reading my Bible, and I got to the story in Mark about blind Bartimaeus, and how he was blind, literally physically blind, and sitting by himself, and he heard Jesus was coming, and he was so desperate, so blind, that he was willing to cry out even after people told him to shut up, to cry out louder, Jesus, I help me, have mercy on me. And that when those words, somebody said, take heart, he hears you. And those words just hit me in such a different way. It felt like somebody was talking to me, like, take heart,
Mm,
Laura. You're not alone. He sees you. And I thought, you know what? I might not be blind in the physical sense. I can see things just fine. But in the mental sense, I had been absolutely blinded by those lies that said that I was alone, that I wasn't good enough, that nobody saw me. I was blind emotionally. And um and
mm,
anyway, and so I felt that when I felt seen, that there was just such a huge shift there. That was a big transition point for me of, maybe I am alone. Maybe I am unseen. Maybe I don't have the friends, but he sees and I matter to him. And that
mm,
started this whole transition for me into purpose and value and meaning, that just was life changing. And so there I was 10 years later, on kind of on the flip side of all of that. And um, talking to other moms, other women who, for various reasons, were feeling like I was feeling back then, whether or not they would put words to it. They would say things like, yeah, I didn't get a lot of sleep, or boy, I haven't had time to talk to people in a while, or these little things that I would pick up and, like, ooh, red flag. And I would share my story with them. And I had so many women tell me, thank you for sharing with me, because I feel like I can reach out now. I feel like I can, feel not alone now. And so just being able to share my story in a book form felt to me like, um, like a way to reach out and a way to turn that portion of my life that felt at the time so painful and so miserable. It was taking that time and turning it into something that God intended for good and to help other people. And then after that book hit, and this is actually, I think this is the first copy that I bought, because the updated versions do have like the bestseller logo on them or whatever. But after that, I thought, you know what? I need to write a book then on how I got to that blind state, right? I got there because of those lies that I was
mm.
believing. And so that's why I wrote Compete with Deceit. Kind of the prequel, so to speak, of
Kind of
don't
reverse
believe
engineered that.
these.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what I believed. Here's how I got stuck in this place where I was blind. Um, so it's just been quite the journey with my own books, and a very personal one.
I love that. You don't know this, but what, and I'm going to take this time because you gave me a natural segue. What I try to encourage my viewers with every single time we go live, and, and it's more figuratively, but now that we're bringing an actual book into the conversation, it becomes literally too. But wherever you're at today, we don't get to stay on the mountaintops very often. If you're on the mountaintop, please share your experiences with us because we need that encouragement. The wilderness tends to feel like it's a lot longer, but we don't stay there forever either. Most of the times in the in between. And then in that in between, we're waiting on God a lot, right? And you went through a dark season, and I appreciate you being very vulnerable about it. We all go through dark seasons. Jesus said, you will have trouble. And when I ask Christians that all the time, do you like all of Jesus's promises? Without thinking about that one, they say, oh, yeah. And then I remind them of that one. They're like, no, I don't like that one. Well, I don't like it either, but it doesn't change the fact that it's true. And we get caught off guard by that. Okay, I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit here. But what I'm trying to say is, God's not done with your story yet. He wasn't done with Laura's story in that dark time. And it was just a chapter in her life. It wasn't the whole book. So, whatever you're going through right now, take heart, Jesus said. He's overcome the world. Hang on to him. God used a specific story in the Bible. And though the details weren't the same, or the details ever the same, he used that story to encourage Laura to keep going and look at the massive impact that it's had since. And he is faithful to do that with your story also, but you have to hang on to the garment, the hem of his garment, and keep going. I love that story, Laura. I'm so grateful you shared that. I would like you to tell folks, even though we'll have this in the show notes, tell folks where they can find you on social media or your website and learn more about the great work you're doing.
You. My website is Beacon Writers, Beacon Writers, and uh, I believe my Instagram and my Facebook are it's all Beacon Writers is the handle there. And personally, I'm the only Laura Worosher in basically the whole world. So if you look up Laura Worosher on Facebook or Instagram, I should pop up pretty quick. And then Beacon Writers is the handle for Instagram or Facebook. And yeah, beaconwriters.com would be the website.
And we'll have all of that in the show notes, like I said. Um, I don't do this very often, but when the spirit moves, the spirit moves. So 15,000 of you, I know you're not all going to hear this, but I know from history that at least 600 of you are going to hear this. I'm guessing more will hear this, closer to 1,000. And I bet you there's at least a handful of folks in that up to 1,000 people that'll likely hear this that have thought, at minimal, thought about writing a book. And there could be a plethora of reasons why you haven't yet. Probably in the mindset area why you haven't, because I relate. But I want to encourage you, if you've thought about writing one and it just seemed overwhelming to you, all the pieces, where to start, I want to encourage you. I want to endorse Laura and Beacon because you're going to need help. And she's got the heart and the expertise to help you. So reach out to Laura if you're thinking about writing a book, or maybe thinking about writing your next book and want a different experience. So I want to put that out there. Laura, why don't you leave us today with any words of encouragement at all that you want to leave the viewers with today?
Well, I loved what you said about your God's still writing your story. That's actually the closing line of one of my keynotes that I've done because it's so true. And when you're going through something really hard, it can feel like this is my life now, right? This is where I'm at. And again, the enemy uses those lies. So he's so good at using those lies, but it's not the end. And here's the fun thing that I have learned is there's a big difference in saying, "Oh, I wonder what my next chapter is going to look like," and being like, "I know what I want my next chapter to look like, and I'm going to make it happen." And for me, I spent so many years like wondering what my story was going to turn out like. In reality, I'm kind of a co-author here, right? Like I have some authority to say no. I don't have to stay in this place. I don't have to write this version of my story. I can say I want it to end like this, and I can work to do some things to get it to where I want it to be. And it really does need to be that combination for me anyway of yes, Lord, you're writing it, your story, but how can I help? What can I do
Mm.
to trust and obey? Trust, yes, but then obey and like do the actions to get the story where I want it to go. And I think that would be my encouragement is yes, God's not done writing it, but you don't have to be done writing it either. You can take some of that ownership, some of that authority, and take some action, even if it's small. Take one small thing. What is one thing I can, maybe it is starting to write your book, starting to journal, starting to go to a women's group, something like that. Whatever it is that you can take a small action today to get closer to writing the ending of the story that you want.
Great advice. Be active and intentional is the word that came to my mind in your own life. There's some things like sometimes we overanalyze like God's will. And it is good to seek it out. Certainly it's good to read, it's good to pray, it's good to seek many advisors, the Bible says. But like I've seen it happen time and time again. Like maybe you're forced with a decision whether you're going to move or not, and it's a preference decision. And it's like sometimes God won't be clear about it. He's like, whether you stay in Cincinnati or go to Denver, I'm not going to get involved with that choice. It's yours. But I'm going to be with you in what you decide. And then there's other decisions that he's very much like, nope, that's not my will for you. And he'll make that clear, by the way. But be active. Give him something to work with. What is that saying about God can't use a parked car? Get moving, right? We're not meant to stay in the garage. But I love that. Laura, I want to thank you. I'm not surprised, but I'm so glad that your heart came shining through here today. Your vulnerability, your wisdom, and your relatability come shining through in droves. So I really appreciate that. And it's an honor to be your friend. And thank you for being our special guest today.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you, Steve.
Guys, we won't keep saying it other than one last time. You're worthy of love, respect, and success because of Jesus' sacrifice. And wherever you're at on your journey, we're cheering you on. We're grateful for you, and your story's not over yet. God bless. Take care.